All right, so it's 10 a.m. Wednesdays and Fridays, 10 a.m. is when I'll be live streaming, and I announced that last week. And Daphne had mentioned that also within the chat last time. So I'm just going to sit here and wait until people show up. Otherwise, I'm just going to be talking to myself. All right, so, well, I can mention this, I suppose. Within the description, you can see that this is about frequency. I think this is something that that we need to be more aware of as far as actually what that is, because that term is used a lot, but within a very vague way. So what I'm going to do here, since I'm waiting, I'm going to go ahead and play Amusement Universal, Source Consciousness Field 18.0. This is it's a cartoon that I put together about 4 years ago, something like that. And it's quite profound. However, most people haven't watched it because they think it's goofy. But you don't seem to understand, for those that think it's goofy, you need to give it the entire 5 minutes to watch it in order to understand actually what it's about. It's very, very profound. It communicates the very idea of coming into manifest reality and that you are transcendent of it. You are transcendent of the manifest construct. Maybe these things are becoming more prevalent in regards to the communication within communities these days, but I've been aware of this for a very long time, and this is the reason why I created the cartoon. Was not just for those who are younger, perhaps, but any age group will get a lot out of this. And if you have any questions about it, that would be good, because then I can be very specific in my answers in regard to what is being communicated within that cartoon. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and play that and come back. If nobody's here, I'm just going to wait a little bit longer and then I'll leave. So I'll be here Wednesdays and Fridays if anybody desires to show up. Okay. Let me see here. I have to check everything, make sure everything's going on here. There's me as a participant. And been having a lot of issues here last few days. My computer has been acting up over the last couple weeks after getting it fixed, believe it or not. And my plumbing in my bathroom this morning, and other things unmentionable. So nobody's showing up. Here comes somebody. Galactic High Priest. What? I have a hard time saying too. Goodness gracious. Today is, I'm a bit slow today, folks, so take that in consideration. There's been a whole lot going on here, and I'm pretty wiped out. But again, 10 a.m. my time, which is I'm in California, so Pacific time. And that's Wednesdays and Fridays. I would like to extend it to Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. But we'll see how this goes. Okay, so I want to take a break. I have some tea here, and I want to drink a bit of it, if you don't mind. And I'm going to go ahead and play. Just before I do that, for those just showing up. This is going to be about frequency, as you probably can tell already by looking at the title. And these things aren't planned on my behalf. I don't plan doing these things. Every time I do a live something, majority of the time from now on, and it's been in the past that way too, even though it looks like it's really some of it has been established as far as being prepared and all that, because I would have to, in order to show you some of the graphics, I would have to do that before I do any of this. So I would have to create scenes for that. But mostly I am just improvising. I don't want to, I mean, the workshop and all that, that's a very strict curriculum. But when doing these things, I'm just kind of, improvising for the most part. Today is an improvisation, okay? I didn't know what I was going to speak on or talk about until about 10 minutes ago or 15 minutes ago. So there's that, just so you know. I'm going to go ahead and play Amusement Universal Source Consciousness Field 18.0. This is a cartoon I put together like 5 years ago, I think, something like that. It's an interesting story behind this, how I did this. It just came really fast, and it has to do. This is what it's about, and most people don't watch this, and it's one of the most profound things that I have on there, although it doesn't appear to be that way, as far as on my channel. It's about our transcendence of the very creation. Our transcendence of the very creation. And this is what it's about. So I put it together in a somewhat of a humorous way. And we're kind of can cross over to different age groups. I like animation. I always loved that when I was younger. And so it's a little story that focuses on our transcendence. And believe it or not. So that's what's going on there. So it's about a family. They go to an amusement park, which is called Amusement Universal. That represents the construct, okay, or constructs, okay? This particular one, because it's Amusement Universal Source Consciousness Field 18.0. So it's in the title what it's about. However, it's been misunderstood quite a bit. But I'm going to go ahead and play that and drink some tea, and then I'm going to come back and we can get started. Hopefully other people will show up. All right. Thank you. The things I have in store for today. Hey, morning family. Morning, Dad.
Morning, Dad. Well, somebody's in a good mood.
Today's gonna be great. Great, I tell ya. Are you guys ready?
Well, dear, you've been keeping this a secret. What do you have planned?
Yeah, Dad.
Yeah.
One thing at a time, family. Okay, I was thinking for this morning, we would spend some quality time at the water park.
I don't want to go.
Yeah, Dad, it's boring.
Not such a good idea, dear.
Really?
Well, we could go up to the lake for a picnic, and on the way back, we could visit Amusement Universal.
Yeah, Dad, Amusement Universal. Well, that's a great plan. Yeah, great. I mean, I couldn't even come up with a plan that good if I had a whole week, which I did, to plan what I planned. Remind me not to ever plan again. You got it, Dad.
Yeah.
Later that day. Well, what do you think, kids? Should we go on another ride?
I think we're all pretty tired, dear.
Oh, come on. This is the reason why we came. The Universal rides. Amusement Universal. Come on, kids. You know you want to go. Come on.
I don't want to go.
We want food.
The kids and I will
want
go get something to eat, and then we'll meet you back over here.
Okay. Meet you back over here at the bench then.
Yes.
Are you sure you don't want to go?
And yes.
Well, welcome to Source Consciousness Field 18.0. If you could just briefly look over the agreement prior to entering the ride, you could be well on your way to a wondrous experience. After signing the agreement, of course. Wait a second here. What does this mean? Within my collective experience, I may not return? What? Oh, you will return. However, you may not remember anything while being in the Source Consciousness Field. It may be as you entering the field and then exiting the field, remembering nothing while being in the field. What? Okay, so while I'm in the consciousness jigamathig, I may or may not remember after leaving it what I experienced while being in it. Why am I not able to what? Well, sir, we can't answer that directly because that depends on you, your experiences, what you do while within the Source Consciousness Field. You see, sir, it's an omnipolarity field which allows for a greater variation of choices to be made, resulting in undetermined events. This is all so strange. I mean, is this a ride? I mean, seriously, this is very confusing for a ride, you know? I mean, all this philosophical mumbo jumbo. Is there a way for me to know more about this so I know what I'm getting myself into? Well, sir, it's about experiencing self differently within the Source Consciousness Field, which is undetermined. Now, are you going to get on the ride or not? Move it along, sir. You need to make a decision. People are waiting in line. Either sign the paper, move forward, or get out of the line. Thank you. Sure. Why not? I'm kind of hungry. I wonder if they serve popcorn.
All right, so the attendee there, that was Frank Zappa. I'm sure you don't know who Frank Zappa was, but he was a composer, an icon in America music. So, very distinct character, and I just thought it would be funny to use that voice, mimic his voice for that particular role. So frequency, what is it? All right, so when we're talking about frequency, we're talking about measurement. In this case, we're going to focus on the visible spectrum in relationship to light, right? So frequency is measured in terahertz. Terahertz is 1 to 10 to the 12 cycles per second. The wavelength of that would be in nanometers, and nanometer is 1 to 10 minus 9 meters. So there's several different aspects in regard to how we measure frequency. Okay, so when we're talking about light spectra, right, the frequency of what is understood as visible light, this is the inverted aspect of the vibration or sound. Okay, so sound and light are one, and I've been talking about that for a long time, and I put together some techniques that's based all around that. Quite different from what you find in chelantic science, in fact. All right. Although I was inspired by chelantic science in order to develop that, but it's quite unique and different from everything else. And my experience with it is that it had been much more effective than anything else. Quickly, things that would normally take weeks or months can transpire within Well, within a few minutes. It's based on being able to develop one particular technique before you can utilize the rest of it. Like I said, I've done a complete series on that, so I'm not going to go all into that at this point. But sound and light are one. Okay, so again, just for those who may be new to this, the vibration is what begins first. The first creation vibration, thought, intention. We use the word thought here within these outer worlds, with here where we're at in this incarnation, because this is how we're able to understand this, okay? So the word thought takes on a completely different awareness when we're talking about higher oscillation. This is a very high vibrational state here where we're at, and people were saying, no, it's not. Well, it is. And the reason why it is because the magnetism here is stronger than the electrical acceleration here. When we're looking at Merkaba, you can see that within the Merkaba fields based on your surroundings in the environment. You can tell when there is a compaction taking place within the field. So it's very dense, which the vibration is held within magnetism. So it's a higher, or should I say the better word to use here is slower oscillation of vibration. However, just like within a magnet, you have two different poles, okay? But you can't break it in half and say, oh, here's a half of a magnet. It's two counter-rotating fields, electromagnetic, right? This governs everything. This is where we get lights. All our technology, everything is based on that, okay? So this is the underlying pinning structure for the primal life force currents, period. You see it in you see it in the DNA construct, all right? Two counter-rotating fields, okay? Everything is based off of this within this creational field, okay? So you have the first creation vibration, thought, intention, because it's all about consciousness, awareness. Okay, this is what creates everything, is what holds it all together. And we have facilitated that because we're an individuation of source. Therefore, we are that. This is different ways to experience ourselves through these fields that are created, which we co-create within. So you have the thought vibration, okay, which is magnetism, staying on track here. And then you have a inversion of that, or a projection of that, which is the form, which is the frequency, which is the color, so on and so forth. So this is what we're talking about here, okay, when it comes to frequency. All right, so different aspects of frequency. Here's something that I wanted to communicate. Frequency is incremental. When we're looking at dimensions, okay, dimensions are better understood as being harmonic bands of consciousness or awareness, energy, okay? And so if we're to go back to the idea of the light spectrum, we can see that within the hue that changes from color to color, okay? So when we look at violet, or we look at indigo, we look at blue, we look at green, or look at red, okay, red chi, and we can see chi red, and when we look at the harmonic band of consciousness, or the electromagnetic spectrum, we can see the shifting of frequency. You have different shades of red, right? You have different shades, and then it makes the transition once it reaches a certain point harmonically. You follow with what I'm saying here? There is too much emphasis on things being exact. Now, certain things exact are needed for a certain application. But here's the thing that I'm trying to communicate. You are a God sentient being. The very construct responds to your command. Being in this vessel, in this body, it's like being in molasses. It's like being stuck into this. There's only so much that can go through, and trying to hold the frequency in this body, the energy, more of soul into this body, is not an easy task. And for some, a lot harder than others, for sure. Right? So there is a constraint dealing with this. But who and what you really are, and this is really key, in knowing that, who and what you really are, you understand that your command, or what you speak, the construct itself, the partikae, the building blocks for everything, from which everything is made out of within the construct, responds to your command. I did a video on this, explaining this within the Heloic Breath Current video that I did. Okay? It's very important to understand that. And if you want an example of this, I'll give this same example that I always give, because it brings the point home, and that is this. If you got kicked out of the vessel, say it expired. Say this vessel expired, or I prefer to use the word interface. Let's say this interface expires, and it's all of a sudden. So you find yourself outside of it, and you come to the conclusion that this vessel is dead, but you think you're dead because that's what everybody says, which is not true. That's just earth talk, based on not knowing anything here. And that's deliberate, by the way. So that's deliberate. You chose to do this. So, but while you're here, it takes a while to reintegrate back to who and what you are. But let's just say, based on the doctrine here, that you say to yourself, well, isn't there supposed to be some kind of tunnel? I'm just giving an example, okay? Just my point is how it responds to your command. So when you think that, and you're not very specific with what you're saying, but you're generalizing, isn't there supposed to be a tunnel? Now, if your intention with what you're saying is not clear, that which resides within you, that imagery, that dictionary, if you will, of what different tunnels are, it's going to go directly to the default. Your command is going to become a default, and it's going to manifest that default for you like that. So you may find yourself in the so-called center of the earth in a dirty tunnel. You weren't being specific, so it goes to the default. Then if you would ask it again, being more specific, then that would happen. Okay? Just as a footnote, for the same reason, within your systems of belief, and this is not a bad thing, it's just a matter of understanding how things work. Within your system of belief, if you go outside of this and say, let's say you look at the earth and you go, oh, it's round, it's because you believed that it was round to begin with. So how are you going to see it? You're going to see it as being round. But if you say within yourself, what does this really look like? What is this really? And when you do that, you're speaking a command again, right? And then you'll see what it looks like when you're very specific with your intention. So remember that way things that we program ourselves here, these are the things that are going to default to how we're going to perceive things. We will manifest things according to what our affections and how we visualize and how we associate things based on what we believe them to be. Those things will be there. But you can always say, what is this really? And then when you do that, you see it and understand that you are a co-creator aspect of Source, Nothing can harm you unless you allow it to harm you. I know you've heard this 1,000 times, but I lived this. So this is how I know it. Okay? I'm an old fart, so I've been through a lot. I've been in the trenches, so to speak. So most of what I have to say is based on my personal experience. And so I just wanted to mention that in regard to that, because it's important. So when we're thinking about frequency and we're thinking about the idea of being regimented about that, realize you can make whatever out of it that you wish. But within the construct, there is specific things, obviously, that matter in regard to pulse wave, right, or wavelength, and in regard to frequency. It's all initially based off of your intent as an individual, as an individuation. So, as mentioned before, I don't plan these things. I had this like 10 minutes or whatever it was before I started this stuff. But I'm trying to be regular with it, meaning I'm trying to do this consistently throughout the week and maybe even coming in on Mondays. But as I can see here, there's only one person. Everybody else dropped off. So this doesn't give me a whole lot of incentive to really plan anything. Even if I was to plan, and I have planned things, obviously, and otherwise I wouldn't have had the graphics and different things like that, which I put together and had that available and created scenes here within this operating system here, OBS. And but if I was to go 3 times a week, but nobody's going to show up, I'm not going to even do that. I'm not even going to go 2 times a week. So I don't know if anybody's commenting. It's hard to tell. I might have to sign in here because this is just kind of, here we go. Now I can see everybody. Goodness gracious. I have to apologize, folks. Today's just not going very well for me. I am really just, I've been having a hard time last few days for sure. So anyway, now I see you guys' comments. Thank you for all being here. Thank you for saying something. It felt like I was talking to the air there for a while. So I was pretty much struggling through that. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. If the reason why I'm doing this I'm doing this at 10 a.m. I'm just trying. I'm trying to figure out really the best times for this. And Sylvana mentioned that she could, be here at 10 a.m. my time, and so that's the reason why I'm doing it at 10 a.m. Okay. That's exactly the reason why I'm doing it. I would prefer to do it in the afternoon, but I'm just trying to facilitate everybody, and it's kind of this will take a little while to do, hopefully when more people come in and everything, it gives me a better idea. So I'm just kind of like trying to feel my way through this. It takes a while, especially I hadn't been doing very much over the last 2.5 months or so. I got sick, and there was this whole lot of complications. As you well know, my computer went down and had a lot that had to be fixed. There was a lot of expense, and people helped out with that. But it was just, man, I was sick for at least 2 months. It was just crazy. It just wouldn't leave me. Upper respiratory and just other issues, but it just wouldn't go away. And I appreciate everybody being here. I'm just saying, I'm trying to make this clear what I'm talking about. I'm talking about it's going to take a while for me to kind of figure out exactly what's going on so people know what to expect, and me trying to live up to it. And at the same time, I've been looking to put together the workshop here, and I'm waiting for enough people to come in. And if I can, I would like to talk a little bit about that. As far as the workshop is about our multidimensional anatomy. Okay, it's the course which I did in Patreon, but I want to do a workshop with it in order for people to really get it, because it's really, it's the most important thing in regard to the Keylontics study. It is the most important thing for you. And that's the reason why I've honed in on that, and I developed my own system for it. Okay, I added a lot to it in order for people to be able to memorize things. I added music, which I normally do anyhow, but I added music, and I will continue to do that. And when it comes to the conclusion of the course, which is the ceremony of the Taran, that's what I'm calling it. That is also done musically. There's part of it originally that there was music to, but I wrote more music for it and added parts to it to make it more like a ceremony, because of what it's about. And I've done a few videos on what it's about, enough for those who have been watching this channel to know what I'm referring to, so I don't have to go over that. But yeah, so if I can get, the idea was to have the United States and Canada as being one group. Okay, then across the pond, like a 9-hour to 12-hour difference, because I know try to fit in all the people that I can, so I want to give it more of a time frame that would be fitting for that. So that would be early morning for me, in order to try to facilitate that for those in the UK and, on the other side here. So those two time zones. However, if I get one time zone where it equals at least 5 people, consistently, then I'll do that. And then I'll wait on the other time zone to catch up with that before I do that. Okay? If you understand what I'm saying. So I need an equivalent of 10 people altogether consistently in order for that to take place. And like I had mentioned, this is a paid workshop. So it will be a payment being made for each session. And the reason why I want to do it that way is because if anybody decides that they want to quit, or whatever the case may be, or if something happens, that day would be taken care of for everybody, and answers, materials, explaining whatever needs to be explained, so that person gets the most out of it for that day. There will not be any money paid in advance for the course. It has to be paid during the session, before the session, because like I said, that just is much more fitting for everybody. Keeps everything honest and all that. Okay, so I'm kind of still waiting on that. There's a few of you that have checked in about wanting to participate in the workshop, and I thank you for that. And once things get to a certain point where I can start scheduling things, then I'll contact you to affirm whether or not you're going to be part of the workshop or not, because I've been doing this for like 15, almost 16 years online, and no offense to anybody, but a lot of people tell me a lot of stuff. Okay. It's not so much what is said, it's what's done, but there's a whole lot of character and integrity within my channel, as far as people that actually truly participate, and within Patreon. So thank you so much for that. It's been a long time, me being able to develop people, with such character, well, not develop, but you know what I mean, for me to be doing what I've been doing, and, people now showing up that have a lot of character and a lot of integrity and love. So I greatly appreciate that. When I first started this channel, it was uphill climb. It was like climbing up, it was like climbing up a hill on my knees over debris that was extremely painful. it was just really hard to go from where I was when I was in ministry and dealing with people personally, face to face. There was an accountability and everything there, to going online where it was like the antithesis of that, So anyhow, I don't want to belabor that. I just want to let you know that you're very, very important, and you're very different. You're the uncommon men and women, mostly women. And I really greatly appreciate that. Really do. It's what kept me going. Okay, straight up. It's the few of you, it's what kept me going. So thank you. All right. I'm a talker. Okay, because I'm used to doing that, speaking in front of crowds and everything like that. It's pretty easy for me to do. So it's easy to me, especially if I'm talking in front of the camera. I try to maintain the idea of looking where I'm going and perhaps not talking so much. But I do get carried away. Honestly, I can't help it. I do my best, but I can't help it sometimes. It's different when you have a room full of people and you're talking then. You can see faces and you can see where people want to respond and talk. That's different. But in front of the camera, it's like, go. Nothing worse than dead air, on radio or in front of a camera. So that's another reason why. All right, so does anybody understand where I was going with the frequency thing here? Because I'm willing to go back over it. Well, thank you. My music, as far as what I do with music, that's really my first love. That's my first calling. That's meant to be, truly it's meant to be done in a live environment within a place where people are gathered, because that's where the change happens, because I become a conduit of the energy that flows through that, because of my intention. And this is something that I developed for over many years. I did it when I was in ministry, and experienced some pretty powerful things with that. So it's been difficult to do online because of videos and stuff. I don't really like the video thing. I'm just doing it out of necessity, but I appreciate that. Like I said, it's my first love. It's what I prefer to do over everything. So yeah, well, vibration holds the code. You said frequency, sound, and light is everything. Well, this is what the construct is. It's a little bit more complicated than that, but that's a good description of it, It is. And that's, reason why, again, to emphasize, I would use the phrase sound and light are one, being exposed to different communities earlier on within this online thing. There was always more of an emphasis on sound, but that I never connected with that. I go, it's the same thing. It's just a different expression. And so within the vibration, it holds the code. You think of the vibration as like film, okay, like film within a projector. That's another way to look at it. Think of vibration as far as imagery, and what we see within the construct in regard to the projection of what is understood as electrical or light, or which is within the vibration, it's pre-light, okay, which is form, which is color, which is all the things that we experience like this. But it's all held within the intent of the vibration, which is a thought. We would call it a thought. Within higher oscillation, we wouldn't use the word thought. Of course, we wouldn't use any words. It's just knowing. But yeah, so I understand why certain people that would say to me, it's like, oh, it's, sound. And I agree, that's really where it begins, but light isn't separate from sound. It's just a different aspect of it, or vibration. It's a projection. Go back to the motion picture and projector. So film, think of the film as the intent and vibration. And then when you are giving birth to it, in other words, creating within you, this is something we do all the time. When you're creating within you, an intent, and then you act on it, the energy goes forth. That's the expansion of it. It becomes manifest. We can do that in our mind. Close your eyes. You can train yourself to visualize things and create stuff. When I was 6 years old, even before that, like 5 years old, this is what I remember. In my room, I would create cartoons on the wall. I could see colors, and I would make up stuff. And I was able to do that for a while until I couldn't do it anymore. But this is something that's going on. This is all held together through a conscious intention, right? So that conscious intention, you can think of it as being the projector, and the film being what you're creating within you, okay? And then the intent, once that reaches that point of knowing what that is, you're manifesting it, and that's expansion. You can think of the expansion as being light, or the film that you're now seeing being played in front of you. Okay? So sound and light are one, but it's all conscious intent, right? That's where it's all coming from, period. There is nothing that's happening outside of you. That's just the perception. The reality, it's all taking place within you. And it's not the body. The body is an interface. It's like taking and putting on a virtual helmet to the reality field that you're in, And the refraction of your consciousness, according to the design or how the field is designed or altered or whatever it may be, is your perception of it. And that has everything to do with the vessel that you're in. If the vessel can't hold or see the spectrum, and mostly it's not intended to see it, because that's the idea of separation is creating, it's an illusion. So you want it to be as real as it possibly can, and it is. So real that people think that they're the body, because you come into this and it's the vibration is so, the oscillation of the vibration, it's so long. The best way for me to illustrate this, which I was going to do, which was to be on my keyboard, but I'm going to try something here. I'm just, like I said, I'm doing things off the cuff mostly. So this is something that I put together here a while back, and I just remembered it. So boom. Okay. So let's take a look at the field that we're in. We're going to look at this from a 12-dimensional perspective, or 12 realm, whatever adjective and way you want to describe it is fine. I prefer to think of it harmonically, okay? Hence the reason why I'm going to use what I'm going to use here, because it is harmonic for sure. There's no question about that. So what you see there is a circular piano, right? Keys. Now this is going to represent, just as a representation based on the shape of a realm, okay, or a dimension, okay? Now think of that dimension or that realm or that harmonic construct, be it that it's a piano, as being your conscious awareness within a certain aspect within the field. Okay? So you can also think of that as being part of the manifest template. You can use this as a representation for where I'm going with this, as an example of your part of your manifest template within a harmonic field or a universe. Okay? So you take that and then you add another one to it and put it on top of that. And you add another one, you put it on top of that. That'll make up the entire body that you would have within that field in order to perceive all that harmonically that is taking place within the field. Hopefully you're following with what I'm saying here. Okay, let me give another example of this. All right, let me get rid of that one. So, all right, let me see if I can make that bigger. Make it a little bit bigger. All right, that's close enough. Okay, so as you can see, it's spiraling up, all right? So all of these dimensional spaces, all these aspects of our consciousness harmonically, right? Structured very specifically in order to experience self differently within these different fields of identity. Okay? Soul, okay, I don't want to digress too much, but it's important to understand this. What soul is what we become, which soul is a subdivision. It's twofold, has two meanings. It's a subdivision of our energy, of who we are. We are able to be many places at the same time, which means we are subdividing ourselves and we go into these different fields and we become that station of identity within manifest reality. Who we are outside of it transcends all of this. Coming into the fields is to experience self differently. Okay? In a nutshell, it's what it is all about. It's not who you are, it's what you become. Okay? So in this structural design, if you were to look at it from the top down, it would just be concentric circles. Okay? Like this, what I'm talking about, because it's harmonic. And this is the subject matter here is about frequency. What is it? Well, it starts to really I like to be able to go to the keyboard. I wish I had another camera. And I would go over there and I would explain the idea of oscillation. But I can, by giving an example, but I think I can do it here as well. Okay. So when we're talking about magnetism being the vibration, that's where the code is in. It's within that. Okay. And then the visual aspect of it is the expansion of that to now you're seeing form, you're seeing movement, you're seeing all the things related, color, yada, yada, yada. Okay. You have all that taking place. So if you look at the keyboard, I was going to change something else, but just looking at this keyboard as an example. So it's reversed. It shouldn't be like that. It should be the other way around. At least for what I was trying, I'll just let me go back to, all right, hold on a second. Let me go back to the other one. I don't want to lose you here. So let me try to get on point quickly here. That's the reason why it would be easier to go over the keyboard and show you. Now, if you go down to the lowest point of the keyboard and you hit a note, the lowest note you could think of to hit. When you hear it, so you hear this low note, right? What you're hearing is a very slow oscillating movement or pulse wave. And as you move up, it increases. It becomes faster and faster and faster. It's not higher. It's not higher. It's faster. Okay? And there was things I was thinking about earlier, and I don't know, sometime today, I don't know if it was today or it was yesterday, whatever, that occurred to me, where I can show the experiment how you can hear something and it sounds like it is going higher, but in truth it's not, it's only going faster. And this is what's happening within higher oscillating realms. You're not It's not your higher self. Those are the words that we give to ourselves for this. But that's not what it is. It's oscillating faster. It's able to hold more information quicker because of the oscillation. Within these outer worlds, these lower realms, it's a lot slower. So it's like molasses, like swimming through molasses here. Very slow. It's a cool experience because it really creates separation. And that's what we desired. Okay? So which leads me to my conclusion here, I guess. I'm thinking this is a good place to kind of just say this. I know a lot of you want to go home, but you have to understand something. And let me try to be as encouraging as I possibly can. And this is something I've come full circle with several times because of adversity. Where you want to go. I want to leave. Don't be in a hurry to leave. You came here for a reason. It doesn't have to be a big, grand thing. Like I mentioned before, last time I spoke about this, it could be for chocolate cake. It's like, why did you come? I heard there was really good cake. Enjoy yourself as much as you possibly can. Nothing can harm you. Nothing. In the body, of course. Who you are? No. Only if you give permission to it. And none of you are going to do that. You know yourselves too well for that. But I understand wanting to go home, okay? But you came here. This is so different from everything. Embrace it. Enjoy it. Allow it to put a smile on your face. Even when it's goofy crazy, just allow the joy of who you are. Because who we are in a subdivision of self, or what you would call soul, or that's realization of your eternal aspect. We're like children, meaning not naive, but joyfully, right? And these are the things we need to search for or to regain. What makes you happy? What are the things that you enjoy that tickle you? Can you remember a time earlier in this incarnation where you remember things like that? Moments. Embrace those things. Because of what I mentioned last time, when we do that, we're actually really helping things here. Because we truly help others when we are truly able to expand within that. Because there is no limit to it. There's restriction. There's limitations in regard to being in the vessel. But that little spark that we have here, that subdivision of our energy, that's enough. Keeping that ignited through our joy, through truly who we are. Go to those moments. You come here for whatever your reason is. Your reason's not the same as mine. I'm just now rediscovering what I've always known about me being here and wanting to be here. And I had referred to that earlier. My art, and which became music later on in my life, because I started late with that, is part of my first love. And I love critters. Love animals. I love being outdoors. There's certain things that I adore, and they just feel like home to me. I would encourage you, you know what that is for you, whatever it may be. But it doesn't have to be a huge thing. Just know that this is the reason why you came here, to experience self differently. And it's great. Don't be in a hurry to leave. Time will pass by soon enough, Just, be in the moment and enjoy while you're being here, and be of assistance, and allow your love to come through. because when we're expressing ourselves authentically, that's what happens, right? So, anyhow. Well, we can play within our hearts. This is something that I learned when I was really, really sick. You learn to play without moving. You play in your mind, you play in your heart. I'm glad you brought that up, Daphne. Because I've been through a lot of stuff and it's been extremely adverse, extremely painful. And it took a lot to come out of that. But what I learned from it is what I had always known. And it's not something you can teach anybody ever. At least not here. But you learn to play in your heart. You learn to, for those that can't move, for those who are physically disabled where they just, only thing that they can do is blink their eyes, they're living through their conscious being. That's what it is. This vessel isn't who we are. It's nice for it to be healthy. It's nice for it to be facilitating. Actually, it's great. But all that can be found within you. And it just takes time to be able to develop it. And a lot of what I come to understand, and it's not so easy just to let go of the pain and suffering, because it's like this is what the body's going through. So couldn't very well do that. So it was very slow transitionally to be able to even begin to do something like that. But the intent is where it begins. So playing is something that's within you. And you already do that. Don't think that there's more to it, because there really isn't any more to it than that. Because it always begins within. It's doing all these other things is just embracing that. It just becomes an overflow of that. And you already do that. You already do that. So, just thought I'd mention that. All right. Go back to this, I guess. The spiral piano. So, did everybody get what I was talking about in regard to this construct, how it is harmonically and how frequency works? Oscillation, vibration. What is higher and what is actually just faster in regard to particle spin. Yeah. It takes a few times, like at the keyboard, to demonstrate that. And then, but when the light does go on, not saying that it hasn't for you, I'm just saying, but when the light does go on, it's like, oh. It's one of those things. So nobody teaches me these things, by the way. Majoritively, just to let you know, because I know it's the internet and people like borrow from here and borrow from there. All this is self-revelation for me. These things I developed in my private time and having certain awareness, and it's like, that's cool. Yeah, so sharing what we come to know in those moments are important if they're important to us, and then continue to share them, in different ways for different people, and until they get it for themselves, and then they make it their own, and that's what it's all about, I guess. But bottom line, it's really being able to see things in a simpler way, so that you could be more freer within yourself. I mean, my goal here within this channel has been that, to try to simplify things that seems to be complicated. I'm not interested in complicated things, but if I understand it well enough, I like to be able to reduce it down to its simplest common denominator, if you will, to use that expression, in order so that people can get it, so they can be free more freer within themselves to co-create, again, use the word freely, you know? We don't need to be waiting for things. I've waited a huge part of this incarnation. I waited. I was like at a bus stop at a bus station that no longer was in business. None of the bus ran. And this went on years for me just because of waiting for things that to be resolved and know certain things. And I never came to know anything in that state of being. It's when I released everything is where things start coming back to me, you know. Well, I can't say nothing. That's not true. But it was just frustrating. So there was a lot of things I had to work through in regard to indoctrination and the sense of lowliness about myself, you know, which was through indoctrination, by the way. It wasn't my thoughts. These were thoughts that were provided for me, so to speak, that I had to shed. And it took quite a long time to do that. So don't wait. You know, if you don't have to, don't wait. Yeah, there's no need to wait for certain things. What personally applies to you, it's not about what applies to others, but for you, you know. It's like living your convictions, right? But not preaching them. There's a tendency for that to happen. So I would encourage not to do that. Waiting for chocolate cake. Yeah. Exactly. So whatever this has been today, hopefully it was encouraging, because that's always my intention. So there it is. I start feeling funny when I stay in front of the camera too long, believe it or not. So is there anything I need to read some of what y'all's writing, because I can't really see very well. So apologies. I wish it would be closer than this, but it's not that close. Okay. Let's think. All right. Going back. This time. Well, Sylvana, I'll stick with 10 a.m. I'll stick with that. For sure. I know this is going to take a little while for people to kind of know that I'm going to be here. You know, this is the second week, so it's been two weeks in a row. This has been consistent. So the first Wednesday I came on, I think 1 o'clock, and that's when you had mentioned, said that's too late for me because, you know, you're in Dubai now and everything. So the time there is not so convenient in regard to what's happening here. So I said, well, okay, then I'll just do 10 a.m. then, you know. So, any rate, I will go with that until things change. If anything at all, I might come on earlier, but 10 a.m. seems to be good at this point, and take it from there, I guess. Say, okay, when I was... Cats Wind. Okay, Cats Wind. Are you still here? Are you still here, Cats Wind? The reason why I'm asking is I'm reading what you're writing, so I don't know. Let me check and see if you're there. What time is it? 11:04. Just checking. Okay, you're still here. Cool. All right, so I want to go back to what you'd written. The Anahazi language and all that. Now, not to take away anything from that, I just want to add to it if I can. There is a lot of beings here within Harmonic Universe 1 that speaks different languages, okay? And some of them are so difficult to try to mimic. It's really not possible for the majority, anyhow, of those here in these vessels to be able to try to speak that language, some of these languages. Some of them sound like monarch birds. They're just, the tones are just off the chart, you know. My point in bringing this up is this in connection to the so-called Anahazi language, all right, is that if you have beings here that are speaking a language that we can't do, the majority of the people can't do, maybe be able to learn it eventually someday or whatever, but there's a lot of languages like that. Some of them are just like, some of them are such that there's no way to be able to translate it into English. It's impossible. Okay? There's no way for the tongue to be able to say them. They're just impossible. So what matters really is your intent. It's not because within the higher oscillating aspects of self, you're not using language. And the reason why I've been utilizing the Anahazi language is because I just like the way that it sounds, but it's always based on me writing music in connection with it and then translating it into, well, my spoken language, which is English. Okay. Why am I bringing this up and saying what I'm saying about it? What I'm saying in regard to being able to speak certain things, there's an emphasis with certain individuals saying, that's not how it's pronounced. Well, does it really matter when we can't speak some of these languages that exist within harmonic universe 1, that it's impossible for us to speak, and we're talking about so-called the first language, and yet we're able to speak it, but if we pronounce it wrong, bad boy, bad girl, that's silly. Absolutely silly. There's always more and more to understand, okay? And it's not important anything other than the intent that you put behind it. And that's what I do when I utilize it. It's the intent that I put behind it. There's many different ways when you look at certain words, and it's not like there's a very specific system to the language that's been provided, because there isn't. And it took a little while for me to kind of step outside of that to where I start looking at translations. When I'm looking at the translations, I'm looking at certain terms that I know has been translated within a specific meaning. However, that meaning will change based on context. Very much like within Hebrew language, it will change according to context. So if you have a certain word and you have it within a certain context, it will conform to that context. It'll have a root in the meaning, but it no longer has the same definition as that singular word would be by itself. So it's about context in order to be able to translate certain things. If you know what it's about, there's several different ways to translate it. And all of them, if it's understood what it's about, is the correct translation for it. You understand what I'm saying? So I'm just saying it's not important to get hung up on doing things perfect or this stuff. This is something I run into quite a bit early on and still do. Well, not anymore because I don't really pay any attention to it. And they just think that I don't know what I'm doing. So they just kind of leave it alone, and that's fine. But certain individuals would look to school me and correct me, And the truth is, I wasn't wrong. And their perception of what they understood, I'm not going to correct them. But I found that over the years being in ministry and different congregations and moving into, God forbid, which I'm speaking to myself, the New Age community, there's still this zealous religiosity, you know? And I have no interest in any of that. It's like love, light, and truth, you know? It's not a cliche expression for me. You know, love is who and what we are, and we've always been. Light is how we express ourselves within manifest reality. And truth is what we understand within ourselves. And so that's important. Live and let live. I don't need to correct anybody. And I don't really want to be corrected either. I mean, if somebody so inclined wants to come along and look to school me, so to speak, at least show the respect that is due and the proper etiquette behind that. Contact me privately, not openly. There has been a whole, now I'm talking. Now we're starting to hit home in a couple areas that there needs to be admonishment, though, for certain people who have been shaming certain people publicly, thinking that it's a righteous act. No, it's not. It's not a righteous act. You need to be accountable for doing that. If you need to speak to those people in private, do that. If you can't, then leave it alone. But understand, there is no need for correction in the areas some of these people have been so-called corrected out in the open, and therefore shaming them. Was that which the person was correcting those people, was those things true? I don't know. None of my business. I don't need to know. Stuff like that is where things start going awry. They start going away from really what the whole thing is about. I mean, the whole desire of coming into these realms is to experience self differently. And when we understand that, really, then we respect other people's decisions. We don't have to agree with them. We don't need to participate in them, but we respect it. You know, let it go. It doesn't belong to you. You know? There's too much of that. And we need to stand our ground. We need to respect ourselves in order to be able to respect others. And be sovereign about choices that we make. But that's our choices. Going back to reading. So, obviously, admonishment is required in certain areas. I mean, the last thing that I wanted to be was in any position of being a spiritual leader or any kind of leader, except for maybe a band leader. I like that, you know, because I have a very, very specific vision in regard to music and creating, and it's very clear with me when I'm doing it. So being a leader in that area is important for me to be able to do that. But I know how to co-create. I know how to collaborate. I know how to compromise. I've compromised most of my life. But it's not something somebody should aspire to do in regard to being so-called a spiritual leader. It just sounds funny, actually, when I stop and think about it. It sounds weird. It's like there's so many choices being made. It's like, who you leading and why? And are they being led because they really want to do that, or they're just doing it because they think that they should? You know, I'm personally, I'm just more, especially these days, more interested in individuated freedom. As long as you're not hurting anybody, live and let live, love and do as you will, you know. Everybody's here for different reasons. Some of it's collective, some of it's not. Like I said, some of us, have come here just to eat chocolate cake or whatever. It doesn't matter. It's what matters to you that matters. And for you to have the freedom to be able to express yourself within it without any need for anybody approving what you're doing. You don't need any approval for being yourself. Especially when you're working through your authentic self, your true nature. Everything here is a process, and it's fine. It's part of being here. It's the reason why you came. Let's not make it hard on ourselves, right? Well, yeah. I don't want to take away from anything that anybody's saying here, but I just have to speak from my own place. I don't have to work on myself. I just need to be able to be myself. If that requires work, I guess it does, in order to try to overcome the things so that are obstacles for myself. But I know my nature. I know my true nature. I know who I really am. Just as me speaking for me. This may apply to somebody else, may not. But I don't have to work at it. And that's something I've been trying to have been successful, have been growingly successful with it. And a lot of it had to do with not offending other people, because there's a tendency to offend other people for being yourself. Because you may be doing certain things or respond in certain ways, and they may perceive it differently from why you're doing it. And I've honestly, I had been conflicted with that for a long time. I couldn't really be myself in a lot of situations. I had to be what other people expected, in order so that it didn't affect them in a way that they were perceiving it outside of the way that I intended. And trying to explain yourself all the time doesn't work either. So it's just finding that space within you where you don't need any approval. If you're working through your pure intention of yourself and your authenticity, it doesn't require it. You don't need to apologize for anything when you're working through that space. For what? What are you apologizing for? So it's not about, for me, it's not about other people. It's about just me being me, where then I'm effective with where I'm at. Either it's received or it's not. It's none of my business, really. What's my business is being me. That's my business. And I mean, if one subscribes to the idea of this sphere of mente, you can see how relevant that can be. Yeah, so we make things too hard on ourselves, and a lot of it's indoctrination here. It really is. We have to be like this. We have to be that. Next thing you know, we are those things until we realize we're not, and then we have. It becomes it can become a struggle to let go of it, because programming, because we're programming ourselves all the time. The whole structure, or recording, let's say that everything's being recorded, and there's a playback on the recording. I've heard that. I'm sure many probably here have or would recognize that. Certain things that you would say in yourself, within yourself, and certain things that you would say verbally, like when you're by yourself. And that certain times, like at nighttime or when whatever it may be, where it's quiet or wherever it may be, you will hear those same thoughts that you spoke. That's programming, that's recordings now playing back, within you. And so it's really a matter of, a lot of it has to do with the things that we say and the things we think, because we are the things that we say and things that we think. Nothing has ever been created, and that's within our own sphere, within our own field, that wasn't first imagined. I like to do a live stream on the creative imagination. I was going to do that today, but it kind of shifted and went elsewhere. But I think next time that's what I think I'll talk about that, because it's all about encouragement here. I'm speaking first to myself, as I always do. It's just, I do it in a funny way. Either I'm by myself and I'll talk out loud, or I'm in front of this camera doing what I'm doing right now. But I'm always speaking to myself first, because that's initially who it's for. It's not for me to say that what I have to say is going to be beneficial to anybody, but it's beneficial to me. And if it's beneficial to me, I know a good possibility or probability that it's going to be beneficial to somebody else, at least some of the things that I would say. And it's not like preconceived thoughts, most of it, it's just coming out of me. So it's just, reminding me, the renewing of the mind, if you will. So yeah, just being, hence this expression, since the word being means being. And what you are never changes. That's the thing. It's like, sometimes people get surprised by that statement. But I've been in different parallel worlds, two of them. Well, three, actually. I had 3 experiences, but the other 2 and especially the first one was very, 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 very physical like this. But also going back to when I was 6 months old and I fell out of the crib, and re-experiencing that a couple of years ago, because I didn't know what happened during that time. And then I was able to relive the whole thing. And what I noticed with that and certain other experiences that I've had being out of the body is that I'm always the same. Wherever I go, I'm the same. And I mentioned this last time. Why? Because I don't need to change. I'm experiencing self differently. I mean, that needs to be repeated like a 1,000 times if once, because it's easily just like, I'm experiencing self differently until it finally stops and goes, wait a second, what does that mean? It means that's not who I am that I'm experiencing myself as. I'm experiencing myself differently within these realms, or any aspect of any manifest creation construct. I'm experiencing self differently within it. That's the whole idea. So that's the reason why I'm always the same when I recognize myself on a individuated level, energetically, whatever silly terms that we use here to try to express the idea. Taking on a body is something you do. It's like putting on a pair of shoes, so to speak. That sounds kind of weird, doesn't it? But you know what I mean. It's sort of like clothing. You slip in, slip out of it. It's not what you are, it's what you're wearing. at the time, or become at the time, or portraying yourself at the time. So this construct is sound and light, right? However, there's other constructs that we're co-creators of and creators of that have nothing to do with sound and light. These are the expressions we use here because this is the construct we're in. But do you think all of them are like that? No. There are those that are the complete antithesis, and there's no adjectives or any way to describe them. Why? Because you have to enter into them in order to be able to experience what it is. The physics, everything is different, even within this particular construct, within different aspects of its mirroring of self, of the infinite conscious mirroring of itself. There's different aspects where the physics are completely different than anything that we would know. Coming into this construct, you become a co-creator and a prime creator, potentially, depending on whether or not what you want to do. But you are not singular. You're not like, oh, I'm just in here and I was spawned out of this thing. No, you weren't ever spawned out of anything. You've always been. And this creation construct is not where you began. There is no beginning or end for you because there's no such thing as time. Time doesn't exist. It's a construct. It's part of the illusion. Okay? Even within this particular creation field, time isn't recognized the same way. It's not even used. It's used in regard to being able to move from point A to point B within these harmonic consciousness bands, but it's not perceived as time. It's manipulated like how we would manipulate going down the freeway or highway in a vehicle or car. We're utilizing it as a tool because we know how to drive. We know how to use the roads. Well, the construct of time is the same way as once you know what it is. For certain beings, they just use it like a road, so to speak. Okay? But you're not this. You're experiencing self differently through it. That's an important distinction to understand. That's the reason why I played the cartoon Amusement Universal Source Consciousness Field 18.0. That's the reason why I played this in the beginning. And I explained the reason why is because of that. It shows you in the simplest way that you're transcendent. Now, you can choose to believe that or not. That depends on you. It's a consciousness construct. You create your own worlds. Okay? Whatever you want to be, that's what you'll be until you're not, until you decide to be something else. But that's the truth. These constructs are fixed. A lot of them, as far as the way that they function, are fixed. Some things are malleable, but they're designed from the outside. And then you come into them and you experience self differently. And this is what we've done forever. Okay? But know that you're transcendent, and not all constructs are the same. As the sands of the sea are ad infinitum. And that's how many different types of constructs there are. Consciousness constructs, right? There is no measurement for that. For the same reason there's no measurement to you. Same thing. So why would there be a measurement to this? We just can identify it as being this is that, and this is that, and that, and this. That's contrasting realities, right? That is the perception. But outside of it, you see it for what it is. You know what it is because you're a participant in it. It's like somebody engineering and building something and then decide to experience what they built and engineered. Just saying. Yeah, there's no limit to self-awareness. There isn't any limit to it. There's no limit to your conscious aware. Who and what you are, there's no limit to that. There is no limit. There's no measurement to it. And the idea of creating these creation fields, what I've been saying over the years is that these are tools. The tools that we use to go in to experience self differently in order so that we can put ourselves in situations to allow for our creative imagination to do things that we normally wouldn't do outside of the creation field to begin with. It perpetuates creation. The more that we do it, the more it grows, the more it expands, because it's expanding through what? It's expanding through us. As we expand, so does these fields. I use this expression. It comes from my book, Picking Apples Under the Milky Way, The Incarnate Reflections of Randy Keith. Nothing has ever been created that wasn't first imagined. Nothing has ever been created that wasn't first imagined. And that's what these fields help facilitate, the imagination, the creative imagination. All right, folks, I'm going to go. Time for me to go. Thank you all for showing up. I appreciate it. Well, just thank you for showing up. All right, so I'm going to leave you with the cartoon. So here it goes. Hopefully you get my intent from the reason. Well, you know, I like to tell the story on how this came about, because it just dropped. It's very interesting. I did the whole dialogue when before I lost my car. I was on the road, and the whole thing just dropped. So I'm like doing this whole play while I'm driving. And then when I came home, it's a short story anyhow. I came home and I wrote it out. As soon as I wrote it out, I sent it to somebody. I said, "What do you think of this?" I don't remember what they said, something. So I think it was a few days after that, whatever it was, a couple days, I'm not sure. I decided to go ahead and record the voiceover for it and then create the animated aspect of it. Yeah, and so just very interesting. What the cartoon is, it's in the title. Amusement is what I was just talking about. Amusement universal. Source consciousness field 18.0. What is the 18.0? It has to do with this particular design construct. Okay, we're talking about consciousness bands, primal sound fields, primal light fields. Primal light fields is an inversion of the primal sound fields. Then you have what is understood as manifest reality, which is 12 dimensions down. And that's with this little video, this little cartoon that I put together about 5 years ago, something like that. That's what this is about. So I'm going to leave it with that. All right, folks. Thank you very much. Blessings to you. And we'll talk to you soon. The things I have in store for today. Hey, morning, family. Morning, Dad.
Morning, Dad. Well, somebody's in a good mood.
Today's going to be great. Great, I tell you. Are you guys ready?
Well, dear, you've been keeping this a secret. What do you have planned?
Yeah, Dad.
Yeah.
One thing at a time, family. Okay, I was thinking for this morning,
we would spend some quality time at the water park.
I don't want to go.
Yeah, Dad, it's boring.
Not such a good idea, dear.
Really?
Well, we could go up to the lake for a picnic, and on the way back, we could visit Amusement Universal.
Yeah, Dad, Universal. Well, that's a great plan. Yeah, great. I mean, I couldn't even come up with a plan that good if I had a whole week, which I did, to plan what I planned. Remind me not to ever plan again. You got it, Dad.
Yeah.
Later that day. Well, what do you think, kids? Shall we go on another ride?
I think we're all pretty tired, dear.
Oh, come on. This is the reason why we came. The Universal rides. Amusement Universal. Come on, kids. You know you want to go. Come on.
I don't want to go.
We want food.
The kids and I will
want
go get something to eat, and then we'll meet you back over here.
Okay. Meet you back over here at the bench then.
Yes.
Are you sure you don't want to go?
And yes.
Well, welcome to Source Consciousness Field 18.0. If you could just briefly look over the agreement prior to entering the ride, you could be well on your way to a wondrous experience. After signing the agreement, of course. Wait a second here. What does this mean? Within my collective experience, I may not return? What? Oh, you will return. However, you may not remember anything while being in the source consciousness field. It may be as you entering the field and then exiting the field, remembering nothing while being in the field. What? Okay, so while I'm in the consciousness jigamathig, I may or may not remember after leaving it what I experienced while being in it. Why am I not able to what? Well, sir, we can't answer that directly because that depends on you, your experiences, what you do while within the source consciousness field. You see, sir, it's an omnipolarity field which allows for a greater variation of choices to be made, resulting in undetermined events. This is all so strange. I mean, is this a ride? I mean, seriously, this is very confusing for a ride, you know? I mean, all this philosophical mumbo jumbo. Is there a way for me to know more about this so I know what I'm getting myself into? Well, sir, it's about experiencing self differently within the source consciousness field, which is undetermined. Now, are you going to get on the ride or not? Move it along, sir. You need to make a decision. People are waiting in line. Either sign the paper, move forward, or get out of the line. Thank you. Sure, why not? I'm kind of hungry. I wonder if they serve popcorn.